And coming up on the marketplace this weekend edition, ratings agency Moody's warns of challenging times ahead for Akufo-Addo's second term in office from next year. Also, Nigeria's President Buhari has made a big announcement, says closed borders will soon be reopened. Plus, we feature young talent and entrepreneurs as they share how they kept their businesses running amid COVID-19. Hello once again, I'm Charles Aite. To the details of the stories now. Ratings agency Moody's is warning of some challenging times for Akufo-Addo's government next year. In its post-election report, Moody's noted that some challenges still remain despite the win. These include key challenges constraining Ghana's creditworthiness, including low growth after the coronavirus shock. The rest are weak government revenues, low oil prices, and energy sector contingent liability risks. Now, Moody's further added that in its reports that a weakened mandate resulting from a diminished parliamentary majority will further complement fiscal and economic reform prospects. Well, let's stay with President Akufo-Addo because he's promised to make the economy top priority as he gave his victory speech on Wednesday night after being declared winner of the December 7th elections. With the current debt stock above the 70% threshold and the economy being hit by COVID-19, the government has got some work to do. Some would also be the focus of the president as he prepares for a second term. Of course, we shall be looking deeply into this situation. Joining me via Zoom is the head of finance at Valley View University, Dr. Williams Kwame Prepper. We're so grateful that you joined us. First of all, what do you make of Moody's caution of challenging times ahead of for the president-elect? If you could mute your microphone, we could barely hear you. If you could unmute your microphone, please.
I think it has come at the right time so that the government will be very cautious in this planning, especially focusing on the fiscal management. We've noted that the debt to GDP ratio, as noted, is going above the 71% threshold, and which is a critical issue. So at this moment, government needs to be disciplined. That is going forward, and also government must make sure that it uses the digitization platforms to be able to rope in enough revenue. The last 4 years saw government focusing on a lot of digitization programs, mobile money, mobility, and the rest. So government must use those platforms to be able to bring in those who are not paying taxes. So that the revenue will increase.
What do you think must be the focus of the president, especially as he works to fix the economy and regain confidence?
The first point is look at the fiscal. As the debt is going up, it's a big issue. Currently, government, we know that their plan will not change because based on their manifesto, they are just going to consolidate what they have done in the last 4 years. Government must be cautious in its borrowing. So if I were the government, what I would do is to focus on how to expand revenue or increase revenue collections. And I am advocating that the government must use most of the digital platforms to bring in people who are not paying taxes for them to pay taxes.
Now, in its bid to raise more revenue to make up for the rising debt, you advise deepening government digital policy. Tell us more.
At the moment, government just on a click of a button can know movement of money within the country using the GIP system. So, per our tax laws, revenue is determined based on movement of funds. So, if those with a lot of mobile money as like the new form of bank account, we need to ascertain if they are paying taxes. Now it's also linked to the our TIN numbers are also linked with GRA platforms.
Okay.
We have to be able to synchronize these platforms together so that they can speak to each other, and by so doing, government can bring in enough revenue to shore up.
Great. Well, stay with us, Dr. Pepra, because something interesting happened during the time we were focusing on the elections, and that is a drop in inflation rate to a single digit of about 9.8% in the month of November. Let's first hear from the government statistician, Professor Sam Okobona-Aining, explaining what attributed to this drop, after which we come back to you.
The products which are ordered in a hierarchy gives us an opportunity to look at what is happening across the 13 divisions that we talked about. Of the 13 divisions, it's only 2 items that recorded rates of inflation higher than the national average of 9.8%. Specifically, we saw housing, water, electricity and gas recording an inflation figure of 21.0%, followed by food and non-alcoholic beverages, which recorded 11.7%. The divisions that recorded the least inflation rates were recreation, sports and culture 2.8%, education services 2.3%, and insurance and financial services 2.1%. We look at the contribution of the various divisions, that is the 13 divisions, to year-on-year inflation, and we find that food still is the predominant driver of inflation. Specifically, it is still contributing more than 50% contributing more than 50% to the overall inflation. Specifically, the contribution of food was 53.0% for the month of November 2020. Housing, water, electricity and gas contributed more than a fifth, specifically 22.6% to total inflation, and this was largely driven by rent and refuse collection.
Well, Doc, so that should be a pat on the back for government, shouldn't it? Especially looking at the fact that they're targeting a single-digit inflation.
Yeah, that is true. You know, the new patriotic parties, anytime it's known that anytime they come into government, try to make sure that our inflation rate comes down. So from 2016, where they started with 17.45%, and now it is around 9.6%, shows that they have a strategy. In my analysis, what I noted was that government normally focuses on making sure that there is enough exchange foreign currency to shore up its transactions. And there are 2 factors normally that causes inflation. That is the pull factor and the cost factor.
Exactly.
A major element of the cost factor is the exchange rate. So once government is able to control the element of exchange rate, you will see that inflation normally comes down. So it's a plus to government to be able to bring the inflation to 9.8. If you look at the drivers, as noted by the statistician, it was the movement by the food basket.
Okay.
The food basket. So and that is why the government is focusing on trying to bring in food, planting for food and agriculture. If we get that right in the next 4 years, based on these 2 strategies, we will see inflation dropping further in the coming years.
Great. Just before we let you go, you know, one other thing that people may ask is, what is a single-digit inflation, and whether or not there is no trickle-down effect on the economy, because our viewers out there would want to assess how this is going to impact the food on their table.
Mostly, you will not feel it too much, but then it's the change in normally is a change in price of goods at a point in time. So gradually, you will see that money, if you, let's say you spend 10 cedis in buying something at maybe a quantity of, let's say, 12. Inflation will help you, that the 10 cedis will help you to be able to buy more quantities. So normally, that is the effect. You normally think that it's an issue, but inflation normally helps us to be able to control our expenditure. So gradually, we will get there. It's difficult that people say they don't feel it in their pockets, but
all right.
Definitely we will get there.
We're so grateful that you joined us. Dr. William Pepra, he's a financial analyst there. Well, still on the aftermath of the elections, the chief executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, says that he does not expect development in Parliament to impact capital attraction to the country. Now, government is likely to lose its majority or have a slim majority in Parliament. This may be difficult to secure the needed incentive for some of the investment agreements. But speaking on PM Express, Mr. Grant noted that he does not expect any challenges ahead.
Well, I guess that from all intents and purposes, it shouldn't change. Maybe it would rather increase. But let me make a few points here. First of all, I mean, the commendable way in which the EC organized the elections has still asserted and repositioned Ghana as probably one of the best countries with the rule of law and all that. And we do clearly hold proudly to our chest that we are known as being very politically stable. And anyone who would try to usurp that then doesn't have the interest of the country at heart. I mean, but, you know, and I say so because at the end of the day, when the elections were finally declared, it was in consistent, you know, fashion with almost all that independent observers and even the press, and including your own station, had established. And all that information was from the pink sheet. So I still believe very strongly that whatever the Electoral Commissioner did say is a correct thing. And if anybody doesn't agree, then the courts are there for that purpose. And so that is what it is. But so far as the numbers say right now, we have a slim majority. That's what democracy is all about. I mean, we would have loved to have all the seats in parliament if we could. But you subject yourself to the will and the testament of the people, and they tell you what it is. But at the end of the day, the president's responsibility of running the government and running a country cannot be compromised. I think that he's led us in a very positive direction. He's re-established Ghana as a major player in the global affairs and a spearhead in African economic and financial regeneration and emancipation. With the Ghana Beyond Aid, some of the statements he's made, and that are clearly in the direction of moving the continent forward, increasing investment and trade. And so once he's president, I believe that the confidence that most investors have had in Ghana will definitely still be there. And I have seen it because I travel with him, and everywhere we go, Ghana is always the toast of most investors. They want to keep talking.
And you're still watching The Marketplace. Now, more than a year after it closed its land borders, Nigeria is looking to reopen them as soon as possible. Now, this is according to President Muhammadu Buhari. The announcement made during a meeting with governors elected on the platform of all the ruling progressives Congress in Abuja. We do know that Nigeria's move was to control the smuggling of goods from neighboring countries, and sources say that Nigeria first showed its willingness to reopen the border last month amid skyrocketing food prices and increased calls for reopening of the borders. Now, let's bring in the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obin, on this particular development. Also going to be joining us as the executive secretary of the Ghana International Trade Commission, Frank Ajukum, as well as the PRO of the Trade Ministry, Prince Boachi there. But let me start off with you, Dr. Joseph Obin. First of all, how does GUTA welcome this news?
Nigeria has just realized that it cannot live in isolation, and that the opening of their borders is only at the instance of their citizenry, who have come under a lot of pressure and suffering as a result of the closure. I've told you before that the goods that were locked up, even at Benin, most of these goods belong to Nigerians who have come to other West African countries to buy their goods, that they found their goods locked up there. Their citizens have actually suffered. And so it is at the instance of their own citizens who are suffering because they cannot live in isolation. That is the reason why the borders is being closed.
So you feel that they are being pinched by the pressures of inflation? Do you feel that the pressures of inflation is pinching the Nigerian government to reopen its borders?
So their inflation has skyrocketed at all time. They are at recession, all because of their closure. So whatever their intention, whatever the aims, I think they miscalculated it. And that's why they are now opening. So it's not as a result of any pressure that is coming from other West African countries or otherwise.
Let me bring in Mr. Frank Ejekum. He's the
citizens who are actually suffering.
Great. Let me bring in Mr. Frank Ejekum, who is the Executive Secretary of the Ghana International Trade Commission. Mr. Ejekum, we're so grateful. Now, you've been monitoring this for quite a while. Could this change the face of trade between Ghana and Nigeria moving forward, considering the harm it already caused businesses? Hello, Mr. Ejekum, if you could unmute your microphone so we could hear you loud and clear. Mr. Ejekum, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. So, as I was asking, how could this change the face of trade between Ghana and Nigeria?
So I'm saying it's welcome news for as long as the plans are turned into reality, because Nigeria is the biggest trading partner in the sub-region. And so any closure of their borders at all has a tripling effect on all countries in the sub-region and beyond. So it is a good deal that they are not beginning to see the reality of the situation, because also, even though the borders have been closed, we understand that smuggling has been very active along the border, because Nigeria, as well as its neighbors, are interdependent on each other. And so you cannot really live like an island in an isolation. So it's good news, and we do hope that it comes into reality. The fact of the matter is that the closure has brought untold hardships to all traders, international traders along the border. You do recall that when Nigeria first closed its borders unceremoniously, lots of vehicles and trucks and articulators and human beings who were traveling to do business were caught behind the border, and government even has to send some relief package to help ease the discomfort and the displeasure of some of the Ghanaians locked up there. So it is good news, and we do hope that it does turn into reality.
Well, gentlemen, please stay on the line for me, because we've also been joined by the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Trade and Investment, Trade and Industry, Prince Boachi there. Prince, we're so grateful that you joined us. You've been in talks, negotiations with the Nigerian government over the past few months on this developing issue. How does government receive this news?
It is a very welcome news, as my big men have already said. Since Frank Ejekum has really articulated the issues very well, and Dr. Obin, it's a welcome news to the entire sub-region, because Ghana and Nigeria, for want of a better word, are the big players on this landscape. And so for this to have been happening, wasn't something that was comfortable to both countries. And it's for that reason that delegations were sent to Nigeria and sent for them to our country to ensure that this thing was brought to a closure. You remember also that Nigeria has recently ratified the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement and has deposited its instruments at the EU Commission Health. And so that is already taken. I think that is the best and the only option available now for them to do, and we welcome it. The best and only option. We're so grateful, Prince, that you joined us. Let me jump on to you, Dr. Joseph Obin. Finally, how timely do you think Nigeria's intent to reopen the border could influence the Continental Free Trade Agreement next year?
Yeah, it is timely for their own benefits, because they've signed up to the Continental Free Trade Area. And if their manufacturers and their traders will have a full benefit, then they have to do this. It's as a matter of urgency even for them to open, especially when the Continental Free Trade is bound to start from January onwards. Okay. So whatever thing that is happening now is because of their own benefit and not from outside.
All right, Dr. Joseph Obin, we're so grateful. Let me end with you, Mr. Frank Ejekum. Finally, what do you think government's positioning should be moving forward with a trade tie as Nigeria?
Well, Ghana, our borders are open. We do always go according to the protocols we signed with ECOWAS and now the Africa Continental Free Trade. So it is welcome, and it does give more impetus to the effectiveness of the African Continental Free Trade, because as we all realize, without Nigeria in the mix, it becomes a bit of a disincentive. And now that they are coming back, they've realized that it's good for them to come back. Right. It is good, and they are welcome. And Ghana, we are known to be opening our borders all the time and doing goodness. So It is welcome news.
Dr. Frank Ojukwu, we're so grateful. He's Executive Secretary for the Ghana International Trade Commission. Earlier on was Dr. Joseph Obeng, the President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, as well as Prince Boache, the PRO for the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Away from that, it has been a difficult year for entrepreneurs in Ghana and across the world. Now, COVID-19, as we do know, has disrupted businesses, caused job losses, and stretched economies thin. But amidst the tunnel, there is some glimmer of hope. Today on the marketplace, we begin a new conversation with some entrepreneurs out there on their COVID-19 story and how they surmounted these challenges. So with me via Zoom is a young CEO of a Ghanaian fashion brand that exists to change the narrative about made in Ghana products. I'm talking of Giddings, and the CEO Gideon Denjo also joins us. Plus, of course, to share his COVID-19 story is Oscar Kobla Maoli Awoku, a Ghanaian multidisciplinary artist. Welcome, gentlemen, to the program. Let me start off with you, Gideon. How has the journey been so far for you, especially when 2020 should have been a kick-started year for your business?
Thank you very much, Charles, and thank you once again. I think that everybody was hit by COVID-19, and for us as a business, we are also hit. 2020, we projected that we are going to make so much and also even expand. But COVID hit us in March, and we had to re-strategize our business model. We had to look at different ways of doing business. And
so talk to me about the different ways. Talk to me about the different ways.
To readjust, and I could say that we've been resilient in one way or the other.
Let me rake in Maoli as well. You are a very special artist in your own niche. How did you survive the pressures of COVID-19?
Good afternoon. I'm humbled to be on this platform to share my COVID-19 experience. So before and after the lockdown, I think I had ideas and concepts to work on for myself, but because of school activities and projects, I couldn't actually project those works. So despite the fact that the lockdown, the COVID virus actually was quite unfortunate in Ghana. It actually helped in my craft and my field of research, because during that point, I had the opportunity to build on my concept and work on my project, which has actually come out great. So it has really helped out in my field of research.
Great. You know, Maoli, if maybe our producers could pull up some of the works that you do. This is pure human contact, human-to-human contact, which, of course, is one of the main causatives of COVID-19, attracting the virus. So moving forward, looking at how personal your work is, how are you going to reposition yourself to stay safe and to keep your clients safe as well? Okay,
so we have put in measures to check the temperatures of our clients before actually having contact with them. And aside that too, we are looking at procedures by using safe African mask, which is, this is one of its examples. So we use that to cover their face to prevent the spread of the virus, should in case they might be infected with them.
All right, now let me move on to Gideon, because your industry is a very niche one and it has expanded over the past few years. What lessons have COVID-19 taught you moving into 2021?
Thank you very much. I think that, first of all, we realized that there was a ban on weddings, there was a ban on where people were not going to work. But we knew that at a point, we will definitely need footwear, but the question was, what kind of footwear would people need at the time? And so we realized that in the middle of COVID or lockdown, we were producing formal shoes for work, weddings, work, and all that. But we realized that there was more like a limitation on those things. So we had to restructure and halt production and reproduce slippers, sandals, and form easy wears. And that was our recovery product for COVID-19, and that kept us afloat. Again, what we also learned was that there's a need for you to sit back, restructure, and make sure that you stay afloat. Again, during the COVID, we had to take advantage of accelerator hubs, such as InnoHub Growth Center in East Legon, to get abreast with issues that has got to do with trying to be resilient in difficult times. And I think it's one of the things that has really helped us. And I will be very grateful to know-how for doing such thing. Again, we realized that COVID brought a reliance on digitization. And so there was a need for us to be very strict about pushing, making our customers understand that, okay, now COVID is here, physical contact is something we will not be able to deal with. Let's look at ways of trying to sell our products to customers in a more safe and comfortable way. And so we had to onboard on several e-commerce platforms that we could sell and spread our tentacles to reach out to other customers.
I believe one other tool that you adopted was the reduction of sales, discounts.
Exactly. And we also realized that in trying to making sure that we adhere to COVID protocols, we brought up about discounts. Again, we looked at if you're able to pay through mobile money or bank transfer, we give you a further discount. And that will encourage people to rather use digital payment systems. And these are some of the things we did to stay afloat.
That's so smart. Let me end with you, Maoli. So what's going to be the future for your niche market? Briefly, let me end with you, Maoli.
So due to the lockdown, I was able to work on my social media reach and social networking tools. So I think for now, my next plan is to expand my social media reach, as I said earlier. And I'm working on projects for myself to depict our culture. And, you know, due to the COVID, the virus, there has been so many incidences outside the diaspora. So I'm also inculcating that in my art to also speak for we Africans and those in diaspora during these crucial times.
Okay. Maoli Gideon, we're so grateful that you joined us with your COVID-19 stories. I believe this sends a hopeful message to entrepreneurs out there who are also willing to stay afloat amidst the pandemic. But let's leave you with a quick take on start-uppers.
We have one currently in the procurement law that states that state-funded project, 20% of it should be ceded to young people, young entrepreneurs or youth businesses and PWDs. This one, what it means is that a part of the project. So, for example, if you are the one taking the contract, 20% of it should be given to a young person. Maybe the young person can bring the labor, can bring maybe cement or whatever, and get paid for that. But here is a case we are trying to push for a component and say that 20% of it. Let's say if at the end of the day, the whole project list we have in the county is about 200. We want 20% of this to be given to young people so they can be supported to execute the project.
Of course, that's how we end this edition of The Marketplace. My name is Charles Aichi. For me and the rest of the team, have a wonderful weekend and keep enjoying our programs. Good afternoon.